My God, I hate drugs.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Madam Speaker, good morning. Mr. President, Madam Speaker, made of record at the start of today's session is the letter of His Excellency President Duterte requesting Congress to authorize the further extension of martial law and the suspension of privilege of habeas corpus in Mindanao, which took effect pursuant to Proclamation 216. My first question, Mr. President, the justification for the extension of Proclamation 216 are all contained in this letter of December 6, 2016. The question is addressed to the resource person, Secretary Medialdea, Mr. President.
Ano?
Ang question is, lahat ba na
Executive Secretary, you may respond.
basic?
Those are the basic information that we gave in the letter, Mr.
Yes,
President.
since this is the information is the basic information used to justify the extension of the martial law as requested by His Excellency the President. No other justification is found in, other than those found in his letter, would be cited to justify the extension of martial law.
Mr. Speaker, we presented that in the earlier briefings with members of the Senate and members of the House of Representatives.
Yes. In fact, other than those which were submitted during the executive briefing, there is no other detailed report of the subsisting rebellion that is asserted to be submitted to this Congress, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
4 of this letter.
the resource persons are here to provide other details which you may wish to ask, Mr. President.
All right. Mr. President, we can only rely on the letter that is sent to this chamber on the justification for the extension. And let me summarize for the record, for the easy understanding of the public, the grounds. First, it is cited that the Abu Sayyaf group, the Bangsamoro Islamic Federation fighters, the Dawla Islamiyah, and other terrorist groups seek to promote global rebellion and continue to defy government by perpetrating hostile activities. That's the first ground. The second ground is that the Dawla, I hope I pronounce it correctly, the Dawla Islamiyah forces continue to pursue rebellion against the government by furthering the conduct of their radicalized activities and continuing to recruit new members in the Muslim communities. The third ground is the communist terrorist group has publicly declared its intention to seize political power. And the communist rule took advantage and likewise posed serious security concerns. Mr. President, the Executive Secretary is fully aware of the decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Lagman versus Medialdea.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And would the good Secretary agree with me that the Supreme Court in that case declared that in upholding Proclamation 216, ruled that the Constitution requires actual rebellion or actual public uprising and taking of arms against the government for the purpose of removing from the territory of the Philippines sovereignty over this territory. Would the good secretary agree that that was the basic rationale for upholding the Proclamation 216?
Yes, sir.
We have enumerated the 4 grounds cited in the December 6, 2018 letter of the President, and there is nothing in these 4 grounds cited that shows actual uprising, actual rebellion, actual armed uprising. The revised penal code imposes as elements for the declaration of these, for punishing the act of rebellion, the element that there must be an armed actual uprising for the purpose of removing sovereignty over certain territories of the Philippines. There is nothing in these 4 grounds that shows that there is an actual uprising for the purpose of removing from the allegiance of the Philippine government the territory of the Philippines or any part thereof. And I highlight the fact that what this Constitution requires, as ruled by the Supreme Court, is actual armed uprising for the purpose of removing from the allegiance of the government the territory of the Philippines or any part thereof.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the actual commission of acts are stated in pages 3 and 4 of the President's letter to the Secretary, to the Senate President, and to the Secretary, Speaker of the House.
We have enumerated those 4 grounds, and in fact, in the letter itself, it states that the said 4 grounds are, in general terms, describe the so-called continuing rebellion. It is our respectful submission that there is no ground, there is no actual armed uprising that is taking place in Mindanao to justify the extension of martial law. We must recall that Proclamation 216 was premised on the siege of Marawi. On the siege of Marawi. And in the briefing of the Department of National Defense.
Your Honor, the Minority Leader, will you please wind up?
Yes.
The limit is 3. We have extended the...
Thank you very much. Just this last question. I forgot already my question because of the interruption. I'm sorry, Mr. President.
I apologize for that, but we just have to follow.
But in fact...
Senator Bamakino is donating his 3 minutes to you, so you may continue. You are 7 minutes already.
Thank you very much.
Likewise, Senator Pangilinan, so you have 2 minutes more.
In the briefing yesterday, Mr. President, the Secretary of National Defense said the continued extension of martial law is a war, psychological war. It is not, there was nothing there that was stated that the continued implementation of martial law is to quell an armed uprising. The local terrorist group was classified by the armed forces as merely, and I quote this, merely a peace and order problem today. That was the briefing we got yesterday. We must remember that martial law is the highest form of self-preservation. It cannot be used, it cannot be the normal norm. It cannot be the norm. It is the highest form of self-preservation. Your statements were made yesterday that martial law makes governance more effective. Mr. President, these are very disturbing thoughts. These are very disturbing conclusions. We cannot make martial law as an instrument to make governance more effective. That was never the intention of our framers. There is therefore, Mr. President, in the letter of the President dated on December 6, 2017, and in any of the briefings, was there ever a citation that there is an actual armed uprising for the purpose of removing the sovereignty of the government or of the country over any part of our territory? It is for this reason, Mr. President, and that we believe that there is no factual basis as defined by the Supreme Court in the case involving no less than our resource speaker here, Secretary Mijaldea, when the Supreme Court very clearly outlined what the justification of martial law should be. For rebellion to exist, there must be a public uprising and taking up of arms against the government for the purpose of removing allegiance to the government and its laws. None exist at this point to justify the extension of martial law. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Majority Leader. The House Majority Leader. Madam Speaker.
Mr. President, Madam Speaker, I move that to recognize the Honorable Edsel Lagman to have the floor for his interpellation.
Any objections? Hearing none, motion is approved. Honorable Lagman is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Senior Deputy Majority Leader,